On quickly for a really super quick example based off OnShapes' latest update. This is dated 10th of October 2025. So they've just announced that they've made Variable Studios work with configurations to allow you to configure your kind of main Variable Studio and use that throughout one document. Why is this important? It fixes a lot of problems for those people who want to design bicycle geometry using OnShape, and I'm going to show you kind of really quickly why that is. So as with most documents, you'll kind of start with a Variable Studio tab down here, and I kind of do that and put all my geometry in. But before this update, you were limited to one set of geometry, which was fine if you were designing one size of bike. But if you wanted to have 3 or 4 or 5 sizes of bike all kind of initially worked out within the one document, it became quite troublesome and difficult to then update retrospectively. And I guess one of the key parts of OnShape is it's a parametric modeling software, so it should be able to be modified and updated at any stage throughout the design process. So what we've got essentially is one big set of geometry in here, and again your geometry sketches are driven from that. So again, this is fairly common to anyone that's designed bikes. You've got your kind of standard reach, stack, all that kind of stuff's in there, and you can either dimension that in the single part studio if you want, but obviously it's kind of better practice to be able to control it through a spreadsheet like this or through a set of variables. But with the latest update, you'll now see the option to configure these measurements, which wasn't an option before. So now what you can do is configure those pieces of geometry that change. So the likes of the head tube, the reach, the seat tube length, again depending on the design that you've got and your kind of geometry theory, you now can have different measurements for different sizes. So as you toggle through these kind of configured small, medium, large frame sizes, you'll see your head tube and your reach length and your seat tube all change, and those can be controlled in here in configurations, much as you would configure a part studio or any other part of the design. It's all really kind of intuitive now. If you're used to OnShape and you're used to using configurations, this should be really quite straightforward. And then what you can do essentially is you just import here, you insert your Variable Studio from here, and you just configure which one you want. So if it's the small, medium, with a large geometry, you just insert that whole thing, and essentially that plugs in that configured geometry data into this part studio and allows you to then dimension the geometry to that. And then you can just duplicate that out, and before you know it, you've got a small, a medium, and a large set of geometry, and bring those into an assembly just to show you. So within 10 minutes, you can have a full geometry size run produced of, to then start building your model and your frame design on. And it's super easy to go back in, and if you need to change, the reach figure and say, well, actually that's not long enough, or it's too long, you can go in and modify that, and it updates all of these different part studios and designs. So from a parametric modeling point of view, super useful. And yeah, I'm looking forward to using this and hopefully saving some time and making life a bit easier for projects moving forward. So let me know if you think it's useful or if you have any questions. Thanks.